Um, put that back up. Did that help over here on Restream at all? I see the meter going up and down whenever I flex my voice muscle. There we go. That's weird. I just turned it off and turned it back on for some reason. It's probably my computer. Had a little glitch over here on Facebook where my Facebook froze and then it came back too. So who knows? All right. So anyway, yeah, that's one of our weird things that, well, I think it's a little bit weird. We'll go someplace and we buy coffee mugs, but only we know where we bought them. We still use them. I don't know. Maybe that's so if one of them gets broken, that only we know where it came from, and so we won't be upset. We just go back to Walmart and buy another one, I guess. I mean, we have some that are obviously, they're Disney mugs, and I know the two that we use all the time now came from Paris, so that would be a little bit hard to replace. But was, let's see, I'm just looking. Well, it's not a very interesting news source that I normally use. Basically, it's a story about a Karen that destroyed a Target face mask display and claims her $40,000 Rolex was damaged. Well, sorry, Karen. Karen ponders whether they're hassling her because she has a $40,000 Rolex on, and it's just utter nonsense. It's utter nonsense that you destroyed a mask display. I mean, that's ridiculous. Masks aren't that big of a deal. If you follow me on Facebook, you saw a repost of a respiratory therapist, or I can't remember if it was an RT or a nurse. Since must be so hard to have enough money for a Rolex, and yet she still can't wear a face mask. Yeah, exactly. And I think I think we named her Karen. TMZ is where this article came from. I think they named her Karen, and then she struck back. Okay, Karen. My two favorite internet memes, okay, Karen, and listen, Linda. I don't know how many times a week I say that. Do I support Black Lives Matter off of YouTube? Yes. Yes, I do. Being a very touchy subject, I don't think a lot of people that aren't black get it. It's obvious. Well, all lives matter. Well, yes. Yes, all lives matter. But certain members of our society, which, they go through adversity that majority of us don't. Like, when I get in a car and I go driving down the street and a cop follows me, I don't think, oh my God, is this person going to pull me over, pull me out of the car, pat me down, search my car? I just think, well, crap, did I forget to signal the last time I turned, and this sucks. Facebook keeps freezing. Yep. I see that too. That sucks. I appreciate that. Bot Mom is over here on Twitch from Facebook. Appreciate it. So, and I get that from people that I've worked with as well. I mean, we go into situations, or I have gone into situations as a paramedic that um, I think is messed up on one particular level. And then when I come out and discuss it with my partner or one of the medics who happens to be of a different ethnicity, and they discuss why it's messed up on their level as well or worse. So I get it. But yeah, the protesters that are causing the issue, um, doing damage, destruction, using it as an excuse to loot, steal, destroy. That's not what the Black Lives Matter movement is really about. It's just like, um, well, if we're gonna, let's see, made Canadian, 100%. And big thing is they aren't there by choice, but they are there because of white people and their decisions. Yeah, I mean, and it's, I understand that people are like, well, even if it was my ancestors that brought somebody over here against their will, blah blah blah, I'm not responsible. That's right. We're we're not talking about ancient stuff. We're talking about everyday stuff. Like my friend who lives in Texas. I mean, every time he goes out of his house, he's hyper vigilant that people are either responding to them normally, or there's just this air of judgment, really. And this person is, a productive member of society, but yet he's looked at like he's a thug. And so sometimes verbally and whatnot, he says, I catch myself responding like that. This is it comes back down to the way that I personally think. If you treat somebody like they're doing something wrong, eventually they're just going to do something wrong because you've given them kind of license to screw up. So it's like, if you're going to think I'm a screw up and you're going to treat me like a screw up, I'm going to be a screw up. And that's bad. I know I'm generalizing everything that we're talking about because I'm trying not to make it too specific. Because some 49-year-old Caucasian guy in a rural community on the western slope of Colorado really doesn't know what someone who lives in Cleveland goes through. And I'm not black, I'm not Hispanic. My ancestors are so Caucasian that I'm surprised we're not see-through. I mean, totally Scandinavian. The only people of any intermingling of other cultures was from Scotland, and that's not very mixed either, right? So some fat white kid on YouTube says, hi from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan, wow. Cool. Are you from Kazakhstan, or are you a transplant from the States? Because I lived in the United Arab Emirates for about 14, 18 months. So that's as close as I have been to, well, I guess I was the expatriate, but being an expatriate in UAE is kind of like, I don't know. It's like the Riviera of the Arab world, really. It's like living on the edge of Las Vegas or whatever. So I was in the capital, and then Dubai is kind of like their Vegas. So visiting my friend Pula here, and she wanted to say hi. Cool. Well, good afternoon in Kazakhstan. That's Eastern. Tell me where Kazakhstan is. I am not a. I mean, it's kind of Eastern Europe, right? But it's interesting to me that, so like I said, I'm out here on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer while it's still alive, soon to rest in peace, and D Live. I've had one person from D Live say hi already, and this is the first time I've ever broadcast on it, so it's interesting. Bot Mom, my heritage is Native and Acadian, which doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah, Acadians are, I mean, they got kind of eradicated when they got thrown off of their land, right? I mean, we got mixed interminglings and some bloodline left, but yeah, Acadians, they don't even really exist anymore. Yeah. Research. So Facebook keeps freezing. If anybody is over on Facebook, go over to Twitch or YouTube. My YouTube skip address, so you don't have to type in 14 million characters, was skip.gg/GESCQ. So Golf, Echo, Sierra, Charles, Quebec. So hopefully you'll be able to, I don't know, be able to follow along if you move over to YouTube. Or if you have a Twitch account, please just happen to hit that follow button. That would be great. I'm getting close to the 50 that I need for my affiliate. Sorry, somebody else caught me by surprise on my other phone. Yeah. Management from my phone. So, well, while we were waiting for some people to show up, and we've got some now, thankfully. Today's topic that I had picked was kind of expanding on what we talked about briefly last time, is one of the coping techniques for anxiety and depression was mindfulness. And mindfulness sounds all complicated and whatnot, but it's really not. Mindfulness is defined as a quality or state of being mindful. The practice of maintaining non-judgmental state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, or experiences on a moment-to-moment basis. So, getting into mindfulness is also being aware when you say your current state. When you become anxious, especially like in public, you can try to take a couple of deep breaths and start being aware of how fast you're breathing, how hard your heart is beating, and how fast. And if you can move yourself to a place where you can sit down and try to focus more on what's going on inside and being safe on the outside, then you can begin to calm yourself and come back to what's actually happening right here in this moment in time. Okay, so hey, Greg, I see you over on Facebook. If it starts freezing, Greg, I'd recommend you pop over to Twitch or over to YouTube. If you want those addresses, I can give them to you. The Seasoned Medic Gaming is what it is on Twitch, and I've got a skip address for YouTube, so you don't have to type in 50 million characters. So being mindful or present in the moment means being aware of what you're feeling, where you are physically in time and space, and where your mind is and what the perceived experience that you're having versus what's actually happening. So people that are sensitive to smells, you could have come across a smell that brought you into a bad memory space. Flashbacks is another term. Or a sound or a sight of something brought you into an event that happened before, and you're like, your brain wants you to handle it now versus probably not handling it before. So that is typically what we would refer to as a flashback. Okay. So first of all, realizing that you're not in that. Oh, hang on. That's not what I wanted. I hear myself through the speaker over here. That was a little creepy. Music sometimes brings flashbacks for Greg over on Facebook. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like the full gambit because sometimes it's sights, sometimes it smells. There was an instance where I was working in an emergency room as a technician, and I was helping a doctor do sutures on a kid, and he just happened to hit a vein that was under pressure, and it caused a bleed that at that time, and the sound of the kid crying took me to another place, and it's one of the nightmares that I suffer from. And my next, so when that stuff happens to me, I don't just all of a sudden freeze and like the typical movie flashback, freak out and whatever. I just continue to function. It's just my brain tends to just go into that mammalian response, that reptilian life preservation mode, and I don't remember things for a gap of time. So my recollection was I was helping this doctor do sutures, and then my next recollection was one of the nurses saying, "Hey, when are you going to finish those 3 charts?" I was like, "What 3 charts?" She goes, "The 3 charts that you have open. I need you to finish documenting their vitals. You got them on there, but you didn't put any description so that I can close out my charts so that we can get ready to go home." So I had a 2 or 3 hour gap in memory where I continued to function, and I had trouble remembering what actually happened unless I sat there and I went back through the chart and I read what I did document, and then I was able to piece it back together. But it was just that sight, the sound, maybe even the smell at the time that took me to a different place in time. And so I recognize now certain things that are triggers for me, and I will use this mindfulness technique to keep me kind of grounded. So remembering, of course, that I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor. These are all just things that I've been taught from other therapists that I've seen, or from my reading and research. So if you're experiencing a flashback that's been triggered by a stimulus, to recall a situation that you've experienced in the past, it can put you on high alert. So some people will get anxious. My response, my anxiety response, if it kicks in and it's not warranted, that's usually my first indicator of like, okay, I've missed a couple of steps here. I'm starting to get into a pattern that I recognize. I need to remove myself. So Bot Mom says, I'm the same way. I still somehow logically get through things, but then my brain dumps those memories somewhere far back in my brain. Yeah. Which can be inconvenient when you need to document what you did and you're having trouble remembering what you did. So that's another reason why I've removed myself from working, obviously. That's a bad situation if you're taking care of people, but I've never had a medication error. I've never not acted when someone needed me to, and that. So I've been lucky. Some people in healthcare haven't been so lucky. They've had medication errors, or they fail to respond in a timely manner. I've never had that, so I was lucky that way. Like I said, if I start to feel myself starting to have anxiety building, and I can remove myself from that situation, then it's easier for me to quickly have that anxiety dissipate just by focusing on my breathing, trying to take nice, long, deep breaths with a count of 3 in between the inhale and the exhale. As far as you get to the end of the inhale, count to 3, and then exhale out through your mouth. So I do that. So sometimes shopping, let's say at Walmart, I never go on a weekend. If I do go on a weekend, I know that it's going to take me a lot longer to get stuff done, because I'm going to have to keep removing myself out of the crowd and take a break, do some breathing, turn around and go back and get back into getting it done. So we have a very organized way, my wife and I, of doing shopping. We have the list, obviously, but making sure to get everything from everywhere else that you need until you get right to the very end when you grab the frozen stuff, grab the refrigerator stuff, and then get the hell out of there. So, and that's what we do. And it works for me. Like I said, the brain is so complex as far as its responses to different situations. You can feel a wide range of emotions and whatnot, but you only have so many physical responses that's possible. I'm reading my notes that I made. This isn't stuff cut out of somebody else's website. They're my personal notes. So, yeah, your body can only do so many things. It can dilate arteries and constrict arteries. It can cause you to sweat, cause you to have dry mouth, increase your heart rate, decrease your heart rate, increase your respiratory rate, decrease your respiratory rate. There's only so many physical responses that you can have to these unknown number of responses from what's going on in your head. So the response to anxiety is the same as to fear, is the same as to anger. You're in that quote unquote fight or flight response. Heart rate elevates, arteries dilate to carry more blood to the muscles. You increase your respiratory rate so you have enough oxygen to be able to either battle for your life or for you to be able to run away. So if you start to feel yourself having this anxious response to something that's going on, that's when you put into practice this, okay, where am I right now? Okay. And I subconsciously and consciously look at my feet whenever I start to have an issue. I'm going to plug my phone in real quick. This particular phone is really bad for battery. There we go. I always look down. I'm like, okay, this is physically, literally right where I am. Am I safe? Is there a threat right here? No, nobody's going to hurt me. Mind you, I'm 6'2" and 280 pounds. There's not a lot of people around that are going to be a physical threat at Walmart, unless, I've just taken the last Pop-Tarts or, I'm standing in their way of grabbing the last Cheetos or something, then there might be a physical threat. And that would only be from another, 6'2", 280 pound dude that wants that last bag of Cheetos. But I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm really not in danger. Can I leave? Am I almost done with my list? If I leave the area and go over to the t-shirts where there's nobody over there, I remove myself. I go over, I practice taking the deep breath, letting it out, trying to focus myself on cooling down if I'm getting hot and sweaty. And if that's not working, then I wander off to another area, focusing on breathing, because you really don't want to hyperventilate and pass out in Walmart. And so if part of my anxiety is from, I was an anxious kid too. I realized that. I don't know necessarily where that anxiety came from. But I was an anxious kid. I was an emotional kid. And so now I'm an anxious adult and a very emotional adult. I've been through some very traumatic experiences in my working past. Not really too much in my personal past. I have lost both of my parents now, one to cancer, one to old age. But my working days are really, the days that I was exposed to other people's traumas, other people's history, other people's problems, and that had left an imprint on me. So let's see, I'm looking through my notes here a little bit more. Those emotional events, if you don't deal with them at that time, if you can acknowledge, man, that was a messed up situation. I feel horrible that that happened to that person. I know that it's not my fault. Allergy nose is kicking in. I know it's not my fault, but man, I feel terrible. And every time that memory comes up, if you give that memory some validation that, that is messed up. I'm glad it's not me. I'm glad that I have something different in my life, and redirect and focus to the here and now, not from that messed up event. Eventually, it will dissipate. I'm not saying you'll forget, because you won't. We're still human. but you need to allow yourself to feel whatever you're going to feel. And that will help you process through, and it'll make those events less traumatic. People that are just like, suck it up or quit. That was basically the extensive emotional training that I received as a early emergency medical technician. Was suck it up and move on. It's not your problem. So if you can't handle it, well, maybe you shouldn't be here. I mean, I was literally told that. Well, maybe you should quit. That's like phone ring. Let's see. Nope. All right. People, I mean, if you have somebody that has great, immense knowledge, I'm not saying myself, but you wouldn't want to throw that away. ASMR phone edition. Yeah. Yeah. The phone vibrating on the plastic temporary desk, because my desk is wrapped up in plastic and cardboard over across the room. Yeah, it's a pretty good sound conductor. But if you have somebody that has knowledge and experience in a particular type, in a particular field, you don't just tell them, hey, well, I know that you're having an issue right now with this particular one, but if you can't handle it, just leave. That's not a way to deal with it, but that's what we were taught at first. But I was worried personally that the experiences that I had were kind of like having tar on your hands, or less traumatic thought is having glitter on your hand. Glitter, the herpes of the crafting world. Like if I were to share my experience or share my emotions with somebody, and wherever I touch them, that would leave a trace of that on them, and add to their difficulties in life. And so that was my worry, and that's not the case. I mean, and the other thing is I had experienced multiple traumatic events, and I was always trying to get back. When will I get back to normal? Normal is relative. So the old saying, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Normal is a construct that if you're trying to get back to the way that you felt when you were 20 years old and you're now 49, that's not going to happen. Maybe this is your new normal. Just like the situations that we're in right now, where we're being asked to wear masks. Okay. And this is from a scientific and a medical point of view. It's not from a personal comfort issue point of view. It's from a practicality. If you're wearing a mask and you sneeze or cough, it's going to catch majority of possible contaminants that are coming out of your mask, and it will filter some of the air coming in through your mask into you. So it will slow the spread of a contagion. It won't stop it. And like we were talking about, the Karen that destroyed a display of masks inside of Target, and then felt as though she was being persecuted, being called another Karen. Another Karen loses her mind at Target because she's wearing a Rolex, and everybody identified her as a privileged white lady by calling her Karen. It's like, okay, Karen, here we go. Well, a little bit of discomfort wearing a mask is far better than contracting a virus that may or may not kill you. It may or may not kill someone with a compromised immune response. Hold on for just a second. I got a phone call I have to take. All right, hold on for 1 second. Sorry. My wife is doing her intake stuff, all of her HR stuff for new job that she started today. We're moving to Central Florida. Yeah, so that's where she, when she called just now, Fee, come here. I'll give you some attention. Got to get a puppy break. Hi, puppy. Get her. So she called on her lunchtime, forgetting that I was doing this, and now she's probably watching on Facebook or YouTube, one of the two. But yeah, she forgot. How's it going, Free? Need some scratches, need some attention, doing a status check. We good? All right. We good? We're good. Okay. We're not quite good, but okay. All right. So, yeah, another doggo. So that's Fee, my Saint Bernard. She, being an anxious dog herself, we've had quite a trying couple of days. Yeah, Vern on Facebook. Yeah, you can. I'm seeing your comments now. Wasn't last time, but yay! Yeah, finally the old man figured it out. He says, "Yep." Anyway, she was on lunch. I thought that maybe she needed another document because I had to find our marriage license and scan it and send it in because you never know exactly what HR is going to want. But anyway, puppy heard me talking on the phone, thought that I was done in here, and so she come in to check, and since I sat back at the desk, she's like, oh, crap. So she does this status check thing every once in a while. Finally got that computer under control, Vern. That's awesome. So she'll come and do a status check. I mean, literally, she'd come and need a hug, need some scratches, and then she goes and right now she's laying on the couch. So, Mr. Donuts, he's lurking on Twitch. All right. Sounds good. Let's see. back to what we were talking about. Well, let's talk about the dog. So we had a horrible night on the 4th because Fiona, my daughter over on Twitch. We had a horrible night. So it's funny now. It was not funny on the 4th. Gave her some melatonin. I mean, did the whole vet suggestion thing. Gave her some melatonin. Had like lavender as a calming scent for dogs, as well as geranium. Well, I don't have any geranium. Had lavender. Ended up having to pre-medicate her a little bit with some Benadryl. Well, it's not enough. And the recommended amount for the dog her size, I'm not comfortable with giving, because the recommended amount, if I took it, I'd probably end up being a drooling mess on the floor, and I don't need that with the dog. I mean, if I'm 280 pounds and I take 100 milligrams of Benadryl, the dog, being less than half my size, it could happen to her too, and so I'm a little anxious that way. So what my plan was when we got closer to dark, when people started shooting off their own fireworks, because she hates fireworks sounds. I mean, if we get a truck that backfires down on the highway away from our house, she's anxious. I'm looking forward to whatever's going to happen for thunderstorms in Florida, because, oh my God, she's going to be a mess, or she'll get over it, or we'll work it out somehow. But it's like, we'll leave the house in my truck. So I have an S10 pickup truck. So picture me occupying half of the bench seat in the front and her occupying the other half. Yeah, the Bot Mom's dog, they have to take alprazolam for firework holidays. We're getting there. We'll get there. The Xanax, alprazolam. Xanax was my last line of defense. We give our GSD mutts CBD oil too. I gave her some CBD oil too that we used to give to our little Yorkie. So, I mean, I did everything that I could to not knock her out. Put her in the truck, and I'm like, we're just going to go drive down on Highway 13. There's a rest stop off to the side. We'll just go sit out there. I've got a chair. We can just, hang out in the back of the truck if we need to. We can hang out in the front of the truck if we need to. She'll eventually lay down. It'll be fine. Well, got to the rest stop. It's almost complete dark. It's just light enough to where you can still see the ridge line of the hills and whatnot, and make out some identifying stuff on the hillside. Well, I'm out walking her around because it's been a while since she's been outside, because she won't go outside because of occasional fireworks. Try to walk her around so she'll go to the bathroom. And I hear something. I hear like a thumping sound, and so does she. She probably heard it before I did. And I look up, and off in the distance between us and the hill that is probably 300 yards away, there is a herd of like 50 or more elk. You can hear them trumpet every once in a while. There's a lot of grunting and whistling. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Let me see if I can snap a couple of pictures. Well, she started whining and had a little boof that she makes, but she was more whining. And so all of these elk moms hear this whining amongst all the rest of the elk babies that are whining. And a good portion of the front of the herd come to a complete stop, made a left-hand turn, and started heading towards us. Kind of at a trot. There's a lot of snorting. There's some trumpeting. There is, run. The rebel on Twitch says exactly. We kind of booked it back to the car. Well, the truck. I wish we had the car. Because if we had the car, there's a back seat. We had my truck, an S10. Like I said before. Got her in the front seat. I'm in the front seat. Start up the truck. My loud 1988 Chevy S10 pickup is not quiet. So they hear the engine. They come to a stop. And there's still a lot of stamping. Still what I would appear to contribute as snorting. But we've got a herd of elk just off to our right, and the dog wants to go out the driver's side window and run away. Well, I'm like, okay, we're not safe here. And she's reacting to the loud truck noises too. So I'm like, shit, I didn't think that through. And the previous year we drove down 13 and around a smaller highway, Highway 5, kind of meandered around part of our county, and then by the time we got back home, the fireworks were over. A lot of people were finished with their private little celebrations of blowing up their little part of freedom. And well, there's construction down there. There's a good long line of just timed lights now and dirt road. So I'm like, I'm not going down there. I'm going to turn around and head back, and we'll go on a different highway. And there's a lot of turnouts, and it's just all farmland and nothing out that way. So headed that direction. The fireworks had not started yet. We didn't have any flashes or big booms or anything off in the distance, but the dog is still freaked out. So I drive for a while down this other highway. She's still whining and panting and freaked out, even with the windows down and me patting her and trying to calm her down. It wasn't working. Well, we get stopped in a turnout. It's completely pitch dark, and both windows down. She's just sitting there with me, and she starts whining a lot, looking out her side of the truck. So I'm like, does she see something? Does she smell something? Is there something out there that is going to try to come in the truck? I mean, because we have bobcats, we have mountain lions, we have, any number of things. Stray dog herd. Hey, another elk herd that wants to come in the front of the truck. I don't know. So I roll up her window. I leave the truck running just for noise, and I have on a audiobook that I'm listening to, by the way, which is a story about aliens basically taking over our planet and taking some of our military people out to fight in their war, and they speak with squeaks and grunts and whatever, and I'm like, awesome, these are all noises that are already in my book. Now they're already in my head, and now I've got gigantic elk that are making similar noises, because that's what I attributed it to in the first place. So we're sitting in the dark. She will not calm down. No matter what I do, she is not calming down. I'm like, well, there might be something here, so I may as well just meander slowly back to the house. Well, get back on the highway, get turned around, and she just all of a sudden, 120-pound dog, either wanted to be on my lap or wanted to go out the window as I'm going like 45 miles an hour or so, speeding up to 65, going on this little highway. So after getting stopped and getting her wrestled back onto her side of the truck, which now she's totally losing it. She's totally anxious. She's totally freaking out. And so am I now. So got this dog that's trying to kill us too. We make it back in town just in time for everybody to be driving at us, leaving the fireworks, which means everybody's little private celebration is going to start, and we live in the middle of our little downtown town. And the kitty corner to our place before we ever left, there was a Mexican family that lives across the way, and they had somebody's birthday, or I don't know, a wedding announcement or something. There was complete with accordion music and singing, which was followed up with more said accordion music and singing before we left, and it continued until about 12:15 in the morning. So another sound experience and whatnot going on for the dog. She hadn't heard accordion before. She definitely doesn't like it. Can't wait for her to experience bagpipes. I guess I don't play bagpipe music like I used to, because she'd probably be traumatized by that too. But so we spent the next 2 hours or so until my son got home, sitting in her safe room, which is the bathroom. Got fans going. I've got a little stool to sit on in there, a rolling stool, and listening to this audiobook. It was a horrible experience. And one of the people that I communicate with and that I watch play games and they watch me, that we communicate on Facebook, he had said earlier in the night, "Oh, I'm so tired of people complaining about fireworks and their dog. If you can't handle a dog that can't handle fireworks well, don't get a dog." It was just like, ugh. I would have crawled through the internet and strangled him that night. That's all that kept popping through my head, is all the things that he was saying. But anyway, now we're back to that. We're talking about mindfulness. It's also called meditation. You can do, let's see, sounds exhausting. It's like a kid that you can't verbally reason with. Exactly. I mean, she thinks that the world is coming to an end every time we have thunder. Now there's barrages of fireworks, and she's sure that she's going to die. And I guess this 120-pound kid was going to take me with her, essentially. So, Juke the God is now following. Thanks. I see you're over on Mixer. If you flip over to Twitch, Seasoned Medic Gaming, and hit me, follow over there, because Mixer's going away on the 22nd, everybody. Rest in peace for poor Mixer. Yeah. So mindfulness is designed, or meditation is designed to root you into the present while allowing you to reach back and deal with what's happened in the past. If you pay the memory that your experience, emotion, that it's due, um, eventually it will dissipate. I'm not saying that it will go away. Um, it was probably a scary, horrible, paralyzing event, but if you're able to reason after you're rooting yourself in this time and space, um, Vern, what's that? Found you? What? I'm sorry. I didn't. Oh, okay. Find you on Twitch. Yep. Found me. Thank you. I missed your. It all came up at once for some reason. I got a little lag on Facebook. Now I understand. Um, the rooting yourself in this time and space help you deal with stuff from the past. You can think. You can deal with these things by thinking, why did this happen? Why am I having this thought? Is it something that was under my control? Is there anything that I could have changed during that time? And you have to remember, and I had to remember, that most of my memories, most of my problems happened from the first years of being in EMS, when I had little skill, when I had little knowledge, and things were out of my control. So there wasn't anything else that I could do. There wasn't anything else that I can, say that would have changed whatever event. And if you pay it its emotional due, that paralyzing fear will dissipate over time. I appreciate you, Drew. I see you over on Twitch as well as Sports Freak. Sports Freak is a psychology student right now. If you were the victim in the situation, you were the victim. I mean, you were under somebody else's influence, somebody else's physical control, mental control. And anything that you do only makes things, you only tried to make things better. You didn't try to make things worse. The only thing that you can control is yourself, and you did all that you could in the event with the knowledge that you had then. Exactly, Rebel. And that's how I had to teach myself to learn to deal with all these things. And even the dreams, it's the same thing. You wake up from a nightmare, you're like, all right, I am here, I'm safe, I'm in my bed. That was a different time. It was a horrible situation. What would I have done differently? Could I have changed things? All of those thoughts that you process through, give it its emotional due. You feel like you didn't cry then, but you're crying now. That's fine. You feel like you wish that you could cry, but you can't. Well, you can still say, that was a messed up situation. That was a different time. With the tools that I had available to me at that time, I dealt with it in the best manner that I could. So that is essentially mindfulness in a very small, very unlicensed, uneducated, other than being a patient, nutshell. Does anybody else have any questions that I can answer about this topic of mindfulness? I mean, we've kind of been chatting about it, letting it soak in, and then going back to it, sprinkling in stories of elk trying to kill us. I think that with her whining, I think that the moms that were the Crazy says now I'm getting this figured out, wishing I had done more for you as a supervisor. Vern, Vern was a field supervisor at an ambulance company that I worked for in the past, without mentioning, names and things and whatnot other than Vern. We had multiple, we called them bumper chats. Bumper chats were usually for disciplinary situations, but sometimes we couldn't get to a coffee place to sit down. Sometimes we couldn't get to a park that we could have isolated discussions. So we just would sit on the bumper or the ambulance and talk. So, yeah. So mindfulness, live it. Yep. Allowing yourself to feel whatever you feel, allowing yourself to handle the emotion and the anger, the fear, the whatever that you're feeling at that time. The more that you handle it at the time, the less likely that it's going to cause issues in the future. But have you ever avoided doing things for long periods of time, i.e., not leaving, going to a store for months just to avoid having to deal with anxiety? Do you think, sorry, do you think avoiding things makes fear worse? Yes. I mean, it reinforces the fear and it gives, in my mind, I'm speaking very cautiously because, like I said, not a doctor, not a therapist, just a patient, just another dude with mental issues. It allows the anxiety to have a little more power over you. And so you're rooting deeper the cause of your anxiety by avoiding dealing with anxious situations. It's almost like you have to go through the stages of grief to deal with the emotions. Yeah, 5 stages of grieving, and sometimes you can do that completely in seconds. You already come from anger and you start bargaining immediately in your head, and then you're finally under acceptance going, you know what, I'm screwed. Either I'm going to make it or I won't. Well, Vern says, I want you to know that you are doing something wonderful and you'll be great help to so many people. Well, I really appreciate it. I hope so. I'll be honest. I do get off of here and I do get kind of emotional. And so sometimes on here, I'm going to try to take breaks and basically have the emotions that I'm having at the time. I'm not going to avoid them anymore. And I think since I've had that mindset, I've had less emotional outbursts, at least in front of other people. But Bot Mom says, I do this to myself and I hate it, especially now with the pandemic. It's an excuse to not go out and deal with it. Plus, the added convenience of delivery services makes it even more. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I remember that story. I don't have it expanded yet, Vern, but I'll tell that story in a minute. Yeah, reinforcing the fear only makes it stronger, makes the anxiety worse, and you have to kind of sit down and be very practical with it. So, okay, if I go out to the store, I could get infected. I could bring that infection home. I could make the family sick, and we could all end up in the hospital. Or I could wear a mask. I can make sure that I have hand sanitizer in the car or in my purse or in my pocket or wherever. Crazy, you're welcome. I would definitely get to that story here in a minute. Have hand sanitizer available. I have it in my pocket or I have it in the car or wherever. I need to get out of this hole. I need to get out of these four walls. If nothing else, to be a little bit more sane with myself so I can get away from the same four people that I've been cooped up with for the last however many days, months. Need to get out. This allows me to move around a little bit. I'm going to take every precaution that I need to not get infected. But I need to get out. I need to buy these items so it will cost us less money if I go get them than I have somebody bring them to me or ship them to me. I'm able to have some physical contact and without, when I say physical contact, I mean contact with other people, not necessarily physical, so that I can process how to exist in this society. I'm going to get my list done. I'm going to put all the groceries back in the car. I'm going to use the hand sanitizer. I'm going to get back in the car, take a few deep breaths, maybe go by the favorite restaurant that has precautions in place and maybe get a drink, if nothing else, maybe a snack. Take another few minutes for myself before I go home and have to process all this other stuff again. Drive back home, take everything out, clean it if you need to, if it's appropriate, put it away, and then I am done. Deal with the family for a minute, take a nap. Or take a moment in your quiet space and then deal with everything that you did at that point. That way it could be kind of traumatic for some people. Hey, I did this. This is what worked. Hey, what's wrong with people? There's signs on the floor that say this direction. Why are you coming at me this way? Everybody that doesn't have a face mask on is basically walking around with the middle finger up in my face saying, I don't care about you. Well, at least that's my feeling. So having a strategy in place, Rebel says exactly the strategy. Have a plan. I mean, hey, if I'm here and I'm in the middle of Walmart and I just can't handle it, well, I don't have any cold stuff in my cart yet. I can just abandon the cart. I can head out. I can have my freak out in my car. And if I need to, I can turn around, come back in and grab my cart. It's already got my stuff in it and finish. Or, no, it's not worth it. I'll just take that list and put it in Walmart.com and have them ship everything to me and allow substitutions if I have to. You know, I mean, there's multiple ways of dealing with stuff. And staying in your house, even with justification of, you know, pandemic, whatever, is still kind of damaging mentally. And I'm researching some stuff that we got off of NPR, actually. They were talking about studies of isolation. It's a lot to digest, but they're actually finding that isolation is damaging people psychologically more than expected. And it's partially to the lack of, or the contact. When you get contact with somebody else, you have a dopamine response. Well, if you're missing, I don't know, dopamine is the happy chemical that cements relationships in your mind, that is a pleasure center stimulant, that it's the warm, yeah, the Rebel says, I'm sure extroverts are dying during this. Yes. It's that happy chemical that cements relationships in your brain that reinforce feelings of being loved, feelings of acceptance, and depriving ourselves of that is causing people issues. So now I haven't digested all of that stuff. I'm going to try to, and we'll put it out again. But so let's see. Let me expand this story so I get everything right. Facebook is trying to be difficult. So it's the, yeah, that's, so the story that Vern put out is also told in a military point of view. So the paramedic with PTSD fell into a hole and couldn't get out. And when the senior medic walked by, the paramedic called out for help, but the senior medic yelled, "Suck it up, son. Dig deep and drive on." Then threw him a shovel. The paramedic did as he was told and dug that hole deeper. Suck it up, move it on. Paramedic supervisor went by. The paramedic called out again for help. The supervisor told him, use the tools that your supervisor's given you, and then threw him a bucket. Well, paramedic used the tools he was given, dug the hole deeper, and filled the bucket. Psychiatrist walked by. The paramedic called for help. Said, I can't get out. The psychiatrist gave him drugs and said, take this. It'll relieve the pain and you'll forget all about this hole. Paramedic said, thanks. Followed his advice. When the pills ran out, he was still stuck in the hole. When a well-known psychologist rode by, heard the paramedic's cries for help, he stopped and asked, how did you get in there? Were you born there? Did your parents put you there? Tell me all about yourself. Alleviate your sense of loneliness. So the paramedic talked with him for an hour. The psychologist had to leave, but said he'd be back next week, and the paramedic thanked him, but he was still in the hole. Another paramedic just like him happened to pass by. Paramedic with PTSD cried out for help. I'm stuck in this hole. And right away, the other medic jumped down into the hole with him. The paramedic with PTSD started to panic, says, what are you doing now? We're both stuck down here. The other medic says, just smiled at him, said, okay, calm down, brother. I've been here before, and I know how to get out. So having a good friend that understands is all you need to start recovery. You're never alone, even though you might feel, and it might seem that way at times. Reach out to someone if you're struggling. Yeah, that's 100% true. The thing that made a difference to me was being able to find somebody that understood trauma and understood how I was or was not processing it. And like I said, that was after like 4 or 5 therapists, and I'm like on number 6, and insurance is changed. And so now I'm going to and I'm moving to Florida, so I'm going to have to find another one. And I know that we can do online therapy stuff, but another thing with isolation and lack of contact, the telecall. Rebel says, yep, telecalls. Doing Zoom therapy sessions. Yeah, it's a possibility, but also with that study information, for those of us that don't have a ton of contact with other people, are we losing out on the dopamine response that we could get from meeting a trusted person face to face? So I haven't formed that opinion yet, but that's the first thing that I think about now as I say it out loud. It's like, are we missing out on an opportunity to cement another relationship, albeit professional, but we might be missing out on that dopamine response from being able to sit across from somebody and have them identify with us too. But all really deep sessions, and yep, Kathy's lunch break is already over. Yeah, she called in the middle and felt bad. It's like, oh, you're streaming. I just, and I was like, sure, yeah, what do you need? I mean, I can get you whatever you need, because I got her the copy of the marriage license that she needed for HR. She's like, no, I'm on lunch. I just wanted to talk. It's like, oh, I thought you were going to call after. Well, I'm going to call after too, but I just wanted to go back and do your thing. And I'm like, thank you. If you need something, definitely call. I mean, I thought you needed something else for HR, but made me laugh. Did I give enough information, Bot Mom, on my thoughts on the isolation? It's all about having a plan, and if that plan isn't working, if it's going awry, you can always, always have an escape plan. Just like planning a escape from your house, as far as a fire plan, right? You know, 2 ways out from every room. Have a couple of backup plans. One of which, you know what? I don't have anything perishable in this cart. I'm going to stash it over here and grandma closed, because there's nobody over here, and I'm going to bail out to the car. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to relax, or I'm going to go get an Impossible Whopper or whatever down the street. And if I feel like coming back and getting the cart, I'm going to go. And I'm going to try to finish my shopping. Or, no, it's too much. I can't go back. We'll try again tomorrow. Or, we'll just order it from the internet. I'll try again next week. I mean, even a failure is a success, right? I mean, you can't fail if you never try. And having a perfect record doesn't mean that you're a happy person either. Success is built on top of failures, right? So, the guy that invented the light bulb and then later got it stole from him by Edison, I'm sure that he built more than one light bulb. Anyway, I know how to start. I know how to start discussions. You get bored in a line at Disneyland or Disney World and nobody's talking, and you have like 60 people standing in line not talking. Just say out loud, is Goofy a dog or a cow? People will be talking for hours, even after you're gone. That discussion will still be going in line long after you're gone. Or if he's a dog, Pluto's a dog, why is Pluto a pet and doesn't talk, and Goofy does talk? Why does a dog have a cow for a girlfriend? Anyway, so marinate on that for a little bit. Anybody else have the real questions with Seasoned Medic? That's right. The important topics are discussed here, right? Yeah. Anyway, what I think I would go ahead and come to a close and grab some breakfast since I didn't eat before all of this. And that way my son will venture out of his room. It sounds like he's actually moving now. Whenever I'm over here talking and whatnot, he feels as though he can't move. So go ahead and end this here for now. Great, because my cat's also screaming at me and I need to make coffee. Exactly. And I'm going to go have another cup of coffee since I've only had the one and no food. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. Appreciate every one of you that had stopped by, every one of you that's going to listen to this on a podcast. I appreciate you there too. Go ahead and do my normal closing. Appreciate you, Drew. I want everybody to have a good day, not just because I said so, but because you deserve it. All right. Till Wednesday. We'll see you again on Wednesday, hopefully. Thanks.